It is November, everyone, and that means it's time for the More You NoCo holiday giveaway. This month's giveaway includes 2 $25 gift cards to Weldwerks Brewing in Greeley, 2 tickets to a Colorado Eagles game on Saturday, December 1st, 2 $25 gift cards to Max Line Brewing in Fort Collins, a $79 off credit to a business called Card My Yard Greeley, which is featured on episode 34 of the show, coming up in just a few days. And 2 different $25 gift cards to Hot Corners Concepts, which is a 4-restaurant coalition in downtown Fort Collins, including Austin's American Grill and Big Al's. In case you weren't tallying, folks, that is 8 different possible prizes just for you. Now, to enter, all you have to do is spread the word about the podcast on your own social media account and tag the More You NoCo's social media page in that post, using either Facebook or Instagram. When we notice that you have tagged us in your social media post, either on Facebook or Instagram, we will private message you and confirm that, hey, you've been entered into the drawing. As long as you tag us by the end of Saturday, November 17th, you will be entered into the giveaway. So spread the word. Tag us on Facebook or Instagram, give us a shout out, and get ready to snuggle up with your new gift from the More You NoCo's holiday giveaway. Now, on to the show. Today's guest is the co-founder and co-owner of Weldwerks Brewing of Greeley. I will be honest with you. When I started this podcast, Weldwerks was on my bucket list of people I wanted to sit down with someday, and I can't believe that day came so quickly. Just like Weldwerks and their amazing beers, I'm going to let this episode speak for itself. So grab a beer, kick back, and enjoy, unless you're driving, and then just sip that wonderful coffee of yours and keep listening. Hello everyone out there, Ivan Wayne here with the More You NoCo, and I sit in person with Colin Jones, the owner of Weldwerks, alongside Neil Fisher. We are joined with just Colin today. Hello.
Hello there. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for your time.
You bet.
Weldwerks is not short of things to do, so I really appreciate you making the time today. And you said you just got back from Paris?
Yeah, I just got back from Europe, so flew into Paris, rented a car, from there hit Lyon, down to Montpellier, then down to Barcelona, up to Andorra, which is a sovereign nation that sits between France and Spain. I had no idea that existed. That's very interesting. From Andorra up to Bordeaux and then back to Paris on a bullet train. So quite the journey and quite a lot to bite off in 8 to 9 days. So
wow. And was this for leisure?
A little bit of leisure, but I always use the opportunity when traveling to connect with breweries. Went to the MASH festival that was in Barcelona, put on by Garage Brewing out of Barcelona, as well as Edge Brewing out of Barcelona. So it's just interesting the people that you meet. So talking to the guys over at Edge, which is a pretty hot brewery in Barcelona, and mind you, Barcelona is a pretty mild scene compared to Colorado. In terms of number of breweries and styles of beer, et cetera, they're just a little bit behind the States there. But talking with the guys over at Edgewater, and he's formerly one of the brewers over at Avery down in Boulder. So it's like, oh, hey, we have all these connections in mind and the whole 9 yards. So it's just cool to make those connections and see those international brewers and meet those international breweries.
Did you know his connection to Avery ahead of time?
Oh, no, not at all.
That is mind-blowing.
I know, right? Well, and forget the company, too, but they recently bought into Avery, a foreign entity, and it is a Spanish entity. He's basically I leave Avery and come to Barcelona to brew, and what's happening, but White Rascals hitting all the bars here, so I'm like, God.
Holy cow.
I know, so it's just a lot of cross-pollination with these mergers and acquisitions, and you're starting to see a lot of these kind of core U.S. styles hit international markets more and more. So
Now, has Weldwerks broke the international market just yet?
No. Shoot, we haven't even escaped Colorado, and likely won't any time in the near future. So we're having enough trouble just keeping up with local demand, and it's a great problem to have. And we also want to make sure that we're going about every next step while maintaining the quality and consistency and the culture that we've built to date. So definitely feel our next steps from here on out have to be a little bit more calculated and careful than previous, just to be mindful of the reputation that we've built.
Are you aware that your brewery, Weldwerks, is basically the Heisenberg of Greeley?
I love it.
Do you know, have you seen Breaking Bad?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like a billion times.
Right. I've watched it, I think, 3 times. I feel like if Weldwerks as an entity were to get involved in something, there would be some real radical change, because I often joke that you all here at Weldwerks are like the real leaders of Greeley. I feel like I cannot go a place in northern Colorado without seeing your logo at least 5 times.
Yeah. It's been great, and a lot of that happens in a grassroots way. It's not even anything that we're attempting to do. So just having that fan base and the support from the local community that honestly has been there since day one has just been such a blessing. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and when did y'all start?
Officially started up operations in 2014, opened our doors February 20th, 2015. Went from business plan to opening our doors in right about 11 months.
Dang.
Yeah, taking over a building that was vacant for about 7 years.
Yeah, what was here before?
So this has long been a building that's around the auto or vehicle dealership, ownership, service ship kind of stuff. So way back in the day, it was a farm implement dealership, so tractors and stuff like that. Back in 1950s, and then over the years became a Kia dealership, Cadillac dealership, et cetera, and as all of those places picked up and moved out west of town. For those of you not from Greeley, it's kind of an east versus west kind of thing, where east is downtown and still a little bit trying to get a little bit of a cultural growth going, where everybody wants to move in out west. It's nice, it's clean, it's new homes, it's all that kind of polished retail environment. So basically all these people packed up, back in the day, starting in probably, the 90s and into the 2000s, really downtown was just a graveyard, and this building was part of that. Thankfully, we have a pretty good leadership here in the city of Greeley that don't get a lot of recognition outside of the business community, but there's individuals that own not only our building, basically invested in all of downtown Greeley, and put all their chips on the table for it, thinking that, with a little bit of nudging and planning, that we could turn Greeley downtown into something that's a little bit more burgeoning and special than it was. And that's played out, and we're just fortunate enough to be a part of that and to help that image. So,
any suspicions as to why people have latched on to Weldwerks? Because I remember when you first opened, I came in here and there were 4 beers.
Yep.
But now...
And I was probably the only one behind the bar serving it. And you were probably the only one in there drinking it.
Yeah, it was. There was not many people here. And now that seems so absurd with what Weldwerks has done in 4 years.
Yeah. And, I come from a foodie background. Not that I'm a cook or anything like that, but I really love to eat food. And I really love to go out and eat food. And I was always mindful of a new restaurant opening up, just knowing that they were going to be working to get down their service elements, their experience, just their plating and everything else. And, those first few months, maybe even up to a full year, are just full of a lot of changes and just things settling down and whatnot. So it did take us a little bit to find our groove, but once we did, we certainly took it and ran with it. I would say it started to turn a corner that fall. We'd kind of settled down a little bit. Those 4 brews were going well. About 3 or 4 months later, we were adding another style, and maybe we'd have 6 to 7 beers on tap at that point. Still not a huge taproom crowd or anything like that, but it was building. The Greeley Friday Fest brought in some people and kind of raised our visibility there. We did really good. We've done and still do a really good job of Facebook marketing, which is really our only vehicle for advertising. And so we tried a lot of things earlier to try to get the word out, but that just seemed to work the best. But yeah, just kind of grew it one foot in front of the next, and never really opened up with a lot of fanfare and immediate praise or anything like that. But We're well connected into the homebrew culture of Greeley in northern Colorado, and so to the people that are in the know and into the brewery scene, they did know about us, came in and like, oh, that's a great coffee stout. Your 2 beers on tap are great. Kudos to you. See you in a couple months. And so I'm really trying to figure out what are ways to keep people coming back and to grow the taproom experience and to get people to stay a little bit longer. That's something that we worked on tirelessly and really culminated at our first anniversary. Our first anniversary was really where we had Juicy Bits dialed in. We'd been brewing it for a couple months. The first few iterations were okay, but we really found our groove with the batch that launched around that first anniversary. And that happened to coincide with our first release of our barrel-aged Imperial Stout, the Medianoche line. Mm-hmm. So we released a vanilla and coconut version of that at that anniversary. And the word got out about that. Juicy Bits was getting some pretty good praise and things of that nature, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So the first anniversary, packed from the local community, but then all the beer nerds came out too, because that kind of made its way through all the Facebook communities, and people love coming out on anniversaries. They know there's special tappings and special events and things like that, and so it's a busy environment, it's a packed environment, but people seek that out. It's kind of like a Black Friday thing, like we're just all going to go, it's going to be a shit show, and it's going to be a ton of fun, and we're just going to do it. So yeah, we packed the house with that, and the first initial results from those beers were just phenomenal. The Medianoche line is really what really brought us that cachet, that kind of expert level feeling from the brewery community. That it's just a very well executed beer. It took a lot of time too. That particular beer was aged for, right about 12, 13 months. And that was a very difficult thing to do. Mind you, first anniversary, that's when it released. And so it was very difficult to open our doors, even just start brewing, not even have our doors open, and go ahead and invest back then what was probably to the tune of maybe about $30,000 to get the barreling all set up. Got some kegs running around back there. But it was a significant investment at a very difficult time, and you just got to kind of walk by these barrels knowing how much they cost, knowing you're not getting paid, and not taking a paycheck or anything like that, and just going like, gosh, I hope you're good in a year. Please be good in a year.
Yeah, what's that experience like, investing that amount of money and it's sitting at the place? Eventually it may make you money, and you're sitting there watching it and you're thinking, oh, I hope what's going on in that barrel is positive stuff.
Yeah, and you never really do know. We have a great barrel program. We've learned a lot. We have failed a ton here. That's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. A lot of people don't see that failure, but it's something that we take a lot of not pride in, but we wear it with a badge of honor. We have a culture that you are allowed to fail, you are allowed to make mistakes, and we just really focus on not repeating them and learning from them. And as a result of that kind of culture, we've really been able to dial in the barrel program, and really, as long as the barrel stays with us and doesn't turn, we can usually execute a pretty damn good beer out of it. So
when you talk about the barrel process, is it what you put inside the barrel, like aligning with it? Is it the materials the barrel are made of? How you condition it? I'm just curious.
It really is the condition of the barrel when it's received, really just minding the beer, taking stock of it every now and then to make sure that it's going where we want it to go. Once a beer turns, it's over, and you just have to dump it, and you have to trash the barrel, and that just is. So sourcing the barrels is the most important piece of that equation for sure, and we've just been fortunate enough since day one to have a really great relationship with the guys down at Breckenridge Distillery here in Colorado. They make a fantastic bourbon down there, pretty much freshly dumped, and they come right to us within days. So, and right when we get them, we fill them. So barrels are something that you don't want to sit on for too long with their being empty or anything like that. You don't want to keep them filled with any other liquid other than the source beer, because then you'll lose some of that char and infusion of flavor that the barrel provides by putting another liquid in it. So it's just best to plan your production of that beer and just making sure that the sourcing of the barrels kind of times in right with the brew day and the fill days and all of that sort of stuff. So as long as you are performing the right QA QC procedures with that, the timing of the source and the fill is correct, 9 times out of 10 you're going to have a wonderful beer. So it's very rare that a barrel is going to pick up any sort of infected source, and that would grab onto the inside of the barrel and have the potential to infect a beer. So
yeah, I feel like this is behind the curtain part of beer that a lot of people don't think about unless they have like home brewed. Or
it's difficult too as we've worked with that recipe and worked with the different barrels, and we're actually doing this podcast here in our barrel room, and we have some brandy barrels, we have some rum barrels, so we've definitely spread our wings a little bit there, and we're getting into different types of barrels. But what we're finding now is our Midi Noche recipe is tasting a little bit better, closer to the 16 to 18 month mark. And so that's an even longer maturation process, that is an even longer investment, and trying to equate the time and care and investment that goes into that beer and the resulting price point for the consumer is a very difficult thing. People that do know what goes into that style of beer are okay paying around $1 an ounce for said beer.
Because they know the quality.
Yeah.
And the time and the craft that went into it.
Exactly. Breakfast Stout founders, that it's $100 for 12-ounce bottles, and they don't make any apologies about that. It's just $100, and that is what it is, and they sell out, and off they go. We don't do that. We always try to be a little bit price conscious to particularly the Greeley market, the local market, and then just not gouge the consumer. We know a lot of people are buying these bottles, they're turning around, and then they're selling them at a high profit. We can't police that. We would need to hire 20 people and that wouldn't even cure the problem. It'd just be too much of an investment. We just try to curb something on the internet. Good luck.
Right.
So we just, we try to make things as fair as possible. And we do releases in a lot of different ways. We keep experimenting with releases. And that's kind of where we're at now. The barrel program is mature. What we're working on in tandem with it now is the customer experience of the barrel releases. We're playing with ticketing systems, ID scanning systems, lottery systems, inline systems even. Really just trying to find what strikes the best balance between supplying local demand and then also giving people an ability to get this beer without waiting in line for 4 hours, 6 hours. So, for example, on our last release, we had a line of, I think it was about 425 people. Before we opened. People were camping out the night before, and that's just not something, honestly, that we like to see. We are not trying to drum up that kind of visual. We do not like it at all. We don't like making people do that, but we'll continue to experiment that, but we're dialing even that in, and we're making it a good thing and a positive thing.
When you heard about this line forming outside like it was a Black Friday sale, once-in-a-lifetime event of the decade, what was your first reaction? What did you think?
Well, it's probably our 5th or 6th one by now, so I'm always so happy of the support in everything from the community, the local community, the beer community. I will never ever take it for granted. Nobody here will ever take that for granted. We had that response starting with that first anniversary release. The Midi Noche word had gotten out, and it was our first one, and we had a line of probably about 325 people for that particular release. That was an absolute shock. The second one was an absolute shock. And then the third one was like, we need to start finding a different way to do this so people don't have to wait in line for hours on end. We would do a program, and then the locals would say, what about us? People just live in Greeley. We want to try your beer. What, we have to come wait in line for 4 hours too?
Got to take off work?
Yeah, and we just don't want to do that. I wouldn't wait in line for anything. I don't care really what it is. My time is more important to that. And so we always try to apply that. What would we think? How would we feel about that when we approach things like that? And again, good luck trying to strike absolute fairness in the world, but I feel like we do a really good job of everything we do has that customer mindset in the forefront of our strategy. So
you all are wanting to balance excitement and buzz around a new release, but also make it fair and equitable. And how do we provide an equal access, but at the same time we've only got so much beer, and
Right.
So what are these systems, and y'all are playing with those?
Yep, and it's just a moving equation. A lot of times we don't even know the amount of beer until the week before the planned release. So it's just a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of taproom strategies that have to come together to properly staff a release like that. It's a huge deal. It's essentially, in my opinion, it's like putting on a large concert, getting the band in and making sure the stage is set up, and then making sure that the sound system works, and it's just a lot of things coming together to try to make it click, to execute the show, and everybody just comes and has a good time and leaves happy, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, because that could be some people's first experience of Weldwerks, or maybe the first time that calendar years for that release.
Absolutely,
you want it to be a good experience, regardless of how hectic and crazy it is.
Exactly right, and it is a very difficult thing, and we've had to make some very hard decisions with some staff and some retraining and whatnot in those kind of scenarios. What I'm getting at is that. We have an anniversary party, and it's just asses to elbows in our tap room. There's just absolutely nowhere to go. It's just packed, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 people behind the bar, and it is not a very big bar, folks. And then we have 4 people in the cooler doing picking orders, and then we have a delivery table. I'm usually the one on the microphone barking out the orders when they're completed, but we have 3 people there as well. We have 3 people running back between the barrel room and the other product supply areas to fulfill the different coolers and stage the product accordingly. And then we have a master of tap room everything, Eric, that just kind of hovers around, makes sure that everybody's doing okay, they have the supplies that they need. Then we have bussers and everything else. And so in all of this calamity, we have somebody come up that, after waiting in line to just get a draft beer, after waiting in line for 2 hours, saying, "It's my first time at Weldwerks." And we're 6 hours into this day. We have 6 more to go, and everybody's just trying to keep the game face on and be courteous and everything else. If you're that customer and you slap your hand on the bar and say, "It's my first time at Weldwerks," and the beer tender says, "Great, what can I get for you?" I mean, what kind of experience is that, Yeah. Nobody wants that. Just being mindful of stepping out of your shoes, getting on the other side of that bar and saying, okay, how can I at least just, take this person's first time here and just do a quick elevator speech about who we are and what we do, and really just be patient as they're trying to select the beers and try to guide them in the best of our abilities and really just make them feel that they're special. We are very, very mindful of that. A lot of customer service classes, a lot of, again, just focus on the consumer, weekly meetings around it. We try to build a kitchen culture around here where if you see something and it's not right, whether that's a beer pour or a customer interaction or anything like that shit doesn't go in your employee file. Nothing like that. We immediately solve it. So I will walk by the tap line, and if somebody's pouring a beer wrong, I'll be like, "Dude, we don't pour beer like that. Dump it, and let me show you what we're doing here." And it's fast, it's busy, it's crazy. There's not a lot of consoling in that kind of time and anything else. And so, but we prep people for that kind of experience, both when we hire, very dedicated to culture and the hiring process, but then also just reminding people of the day of 30 minutes, we're getting ready to open, and we'll have a quick team meet and just be like, "Here's the experience, guys. Here's what is going to happen. This is all going to go to shit.
Yeah.
But how we respond is how we will be judged." And so, just trying to remind people of those just little service elements throughout the day, and to make sure that we're executing that customer experience. I think we do really well in that regard.
This is something I've never even considered about a brewery. That we have this line, we want to get people through, but I also, we want to process quantity, but I also want to give this person a quality experience, because I want them to feel welcome. And Weldwerks has a lot of options, and I don't want you to feel rushed if this is your first time and you are really excited to finally get to the end.
Exactly.
And just how do we operate with bartenders in the moment and give people live feedback, but hey, don't take it too personally. We'll talk about it later. And yeah, that is quite a juggle. Exactly right, and it's fun too, hiring for the different areas as well. We have people that have no service background; they're just very empathetic people. But we can see that, and we can train the customer service side in those elements. But if you already have that built-in innate desire of just being empathetic with people,
odds are, and you're a gentle soul, odds are you're going to be a pretty great server. You might mess up here and there, but you're going to be just a nice person, in general. And so hiring people to fulfill those different areas is a lot of fun, too. That just helps reinforce it, helps make it easier and whatnot. But I would say, too, that we're a brewery full of beer fans as well. So we go to a ton of releases ourselves. We have done all the lotteries and all the waiting in line and trading and everything else throughout the years of enjoying beer. And so we're very, very mindful of what was our experience. What did we like? What did we not like? And we just take a lot of those elements. And again, we have just a great functioning team on multiple levels that can identify and plan and execute these things and do it well. Another example is our Weldwerks Invitational. That would be something great to talk about here on this podcast. But we put on our first beer festival, the first of many annual beer festivals that brought 1,300, 1,400 people here to Greeley.
Yeah, it was June, right?
Yeah, in the third week of June there. And we've already booked the date for next year as well. Each session, we had 2 sessions, and each session had 600 people, 620 people in line waiting to get in. And so these people are queued up. The sessions are only 3.5 hours long. And so it's nothing you want to lollygag into at the last hour. These kind of events, everybody's pretty much queued up before it's go time. And long story short, we got all those people into the conference area with glasses in hand and them at tables getting beers in 6 minutes. 600 people in 6 minutes. But it's with ID scanning software, and it's multiple check-in teams and wrist-based. A lot of these, again, just a lot of these strategies that we've seen by going to concerts. So not even beer stuff, going to concerts and doing all these kind of events ourselves and saying what worked and what didn't, and then trying to incorporate that again into the customer mindset. Who wants to buy an expensive ticket and then have the event begin and it takes you 45 minutes to get in? I'd be so pissed.
Yeah.
I'd be so pissed.
Right.
And so we're just very mindful of that. There's definitely in terms of planning these things, there's priorities of what to attack, and for that event, just getting people in was damn near priority number one. And so putting focus on that and then executing it makes everything else go a lot smoother.
Most of the proceeds, if not all, went to nonprofit causes. And what is the aura around this annual event?
All profits go to local area 501c3s. So we make no bones about it. This is an event for Greeley, for the Greeley community, and to support Greeley specific charities. And so mark your calendars folks.
Mark your calendars for
June 22nd.
Okay, June 22nd of
2019.
Yep.
Save the date there, and it'll be a very similarly styled event. We bring in our best buds from all over the nation and even the world to fly into little Greeley and to pour beer and to share beer and to share their brewery experience, and we limit it. There'll probably be anywhere between 35 to 40 breweries representing again this year. It will be capped at about 600 tickets, 650 tickets per session. Sessions will probably just be about 3 hours in length. Weldwerks will certainly have a big presence there, but we definitely want the experience to be all the breweries combined. These are breweries that usually do not come to Colorado at all in any fashion. They do not distribute here. They have no presence here. They don't attend festivals here outside of GABF, and a lot of times even these cats don't even go to GABF. So these are very small, a lot of them sometimes nano breweries, and we go the mile to actually fly them out here to stay in Greeley. Most of them can get in on Wednesday of the week of the festival, and then they leave on Monday. And we coordinate a lot of brewery-specific events, so we take them around downtown. We'll do a bunch of different things. I think this year we might be doing some educational components or just kind of table talks where we're all just kind of sharing ideas and whatnot. These are great breweries that are making innovative products. They're just good people that have good strategies. They've run their businesses well, and so there's a lot to learn from them. And we set up a big hospitality tent in the back of the brewery for them, It's just a great atmosphere. We take care of them just as much as we take care of the people attending the festival, in hopes to just want them to come back the next year. And again, those are all festival kind of ideas that we love calling it R&D here at Weldwerks. It's rip off and duplicate. These are all ideas that we saw at other festivals that we just kind of took the best of what we liked of all of them and put them into this one. I think that goes a long way into selling a brewery that maybe doesn't have the funds or the time to make the journey out, to go ahead and make that journey out, because we actually pay for their flight to Colorado. We actually put them up at the DoubleTree here in Greeley, which is the new hotel downtown, and that's where this event is located, in the convention hall, and then planning all the hospitality things around it and making it a true kind of a networking opportunity. Really kind of is the linchpin in getting these people to come on out. It's a hard sell to get people to come to Greeley. With as popular as we are and everything else, it's still moving mountains sometimes to make people to make that journey. Back to the original question of what we support and how we do it. So we actually spun up our own 501c3, Weldwerks Community Foundation. It's a separate entity, and they actually put on the Weldwerks Invitational Festival. And so Weldwerks Brewing is just a participant at the festival. We help with a lot of logistical needs that the Community Foundation has in putting this event on. We have over 100 volunteers. It's just nuts. We have 8 to 10 team leads that are just volunteer people that help us and help our brewery team put this on. But by putting it through the Community Foundation, we can keep the books absolutely squeaky clean, and we can guarantee both the breweries and the consumer that every single dollar is going to nonprofits. And so we were extremely profitable on our very first festival. I think there's some things we can do next year to make it even more so. But we know the numbers at a lot of festivals, breweries that put on much bigger events than we do, with many more attendees and many more breweries. And they did not make close to the revenue that we made on this festival. And so it's been a process for sure. We had to figure out how to be a nonprofit. What do we do there? And so thankfully we just have a lot of great relationships in the community and with nonprofits. We've been supporting nonprofits since we opened our doors. And so we just simply reached out to them and say, how do we fund charities? We don't even know. Like, how do we mind our P's and Q's? We don't want to just throw out a bunch of dollars willy-nilly here and there. We want to be a little bit strategic with it and accountable with it to make sure that dollar goes as far as it can within the community. And so that's been a definite experience in spinning up that whole separate entity and learning the world of nonprofits and grant applications and review process and then funding. And yeah, it's been cool. Yeah.
How in the world do you all start finding nanobreweries that have never or would typically not come to Colorado to host?
Really, again, it's all of our staff being a bunch of beer nerds. So we
they just get out
absolutely have our ear to the ground, and we do a lot of traveling as well for beer festivals. We make a point to just go out and visit other breweries that we love and enjoy, just to talk shop and just hang out with no agenda. And so we do a really good job of getting outside of our Colorado border and really seeing what's going on out there in the scene and having our ear to ground in that way. So,
did y'all pick up any tips or styles from regional or national Comic-Cons? Because I really feel like this is a beer Comic-Con. Especially when you talked about the talk.
Oh, absolutely.
And hosting brewers up there on the mic.
Absolutely.
It just seems like people will start dressing up and coming to these things.
I love it, man. Show me a unicorn or somebody in a banana outfit. I'll be tickled. That'll be great. But yeah, it is that experience of traveling outside of Colorado that really opened our eyes to a lot of these different styles. New England style IPAs, Juicy Bits, that we are very well known for. That's a style that it's a heated debate, mind you, but it's a style that, per the heated debate, started actually in Oregon, but was definitely fine-tuned actually in the Northeast, hence New England IPA, to Treehouse, Trillium, those cats. Really executing that style well, and again, just being fans of beer and trying those beers and just going like, whoa, this is an IPA, and then trying to deconstruct it. how the hell did they do this?
All right.
And
people aren't forking over their secret recipes.
No. I will say, though, that we published our Juicy Bits recipe in its entirety in Craft Beer and Brewing magazine.
It's out there.
Yep, we don't care. We really don't care. If you can knock out our beer and replicate it, cool, man, go for it. Don't call it Juicy Bits, please. But not that even we're even going to send you a cease and desist or anything, but we'll probably just say, like, man, come on. Don't do that.
That's ours. We gave that to you.
We do a couple things, we don't operate with fear, and so we're never, and we see some things happening in the market where it's like an intentional ripoff of what we're doing, but we just ignore it and move on. People only have so much capacity. Businesses only have so much capacity on what they can work on and concentrate on, and if you're growing as fast as we are, and you're trying to get the things done to the extent that we are from a strategic standpoint, you just can't be bothered with hunting down people and trying to attack them and get those names revoked or logos or whatever. So it's all good. And again, we absolutely subscribe to a culture of failure as well. It's okay to fail. Try that recipe. Screw it up. Dump it. It sucks. We don't like dumping beer. It's very expensive to dump beer, but how else are we going to learn, And so we actually we opened our doors with a pilot system. I think we brewed on that dang thing maybe just a couple times. Got rid of it finally. Every beer that we do is on our system, so it's a full batch. And to not execute on it definitely hurts the pocketbook. But fortunately, with our team of brewers in recipe design, we just haven't had to do that very much.
And you all just got 2 massive tanks installed right here on location. Future plans for those?
Absolutely. So the ones outside are actually silos, so grain silos. We always talk about how we're basically 2 different entities here at Weldwerks. We are a manufacturing company because we manufacture beer, and it's manufacturing practice, and it's efficiency, and it's all those kind of cogs and gears that go together to make basically those kind of manufacturing companies work. And then we're also this retail play. We're this customer experience with the tap room and being inviting and telling a story and really just trying to provide that experience to everybody. And so as we're going down that road on the manufacturing side, it's as we grow bigger, how do we become more efficient? And getting those grain silos was a huge benefit. It's a big spend up front, but we're not afraid to do that. We've basically put every single cent right back into the business since day one. Both me and my partner, we didn't even take a paycheck for 2 years, which really sucked. It was really hard. It was very difficult with a ton of sacrifice. It's what the business needed, and we're not the only ones that sacrificed. We damn near have everybody that's been with us since day one.
That's so neat.
It's cool. And it's just amazing. And I mean, we have Kristen, who's been here since day -1. She basically started with us 6 months before we opened, working for us for free on a hope and a prayer that we'd be able to pay her once we opened our doors. And so everybody made these sacrifices in terms of pay. We paid other people before we paid ourselves, but even the amounts we were able to pay back then just weren't even industry average, to be quite honest. But we try to make it up by with education and support in other ways and building it up in that regard. And thankfully, we're not in that position anymore. As a manufacturing business, it is an absolute insanely capital-intensive industry. And so just to buy tanks after tanks after tanks and to keep... And when are we done? Like, how big are we going to be? And then at what point does the tank capacity outstrip what the brew house can actually brew, and do we even have the team of people that can execute those brews and building things up in those regards? And so we had to totally rebuild our brew house team about a year ago to the day today. So we brought in a new head brewer, a really sharp cat, Arnie. We basically revamped the entire brew house team. We added a packaging team beside them and all this different stuff, because we do our own canning, we do our own bottling, and those are systems, those are pieces of equipment, those are processes and procedures that are separate away from brewing. And so building up all these different departments and disciplines and hiring the right people for it. I mean, we have a team of 28 people now, and almost every single one of them are full-time employees. And that's great, but damn, it was hard getting here.
Yeah.
Very hard.
It did not happen overnight.
No.
Do you all as an organization have an idea about how big you want to get? What area you want to fill up with your size and your role as a brewery?
Yeah, I don't think we have any immediate plans in the next 2 to 3 years to grow our brew house. So right now we have a 15-barrel brew house. We are making some investments in 2019 that will make our brew house more efficient. But we think we're going to be able to we could eke out with these efficiency improvements. And efficiency improvements are extra tanks and bigger hot liquor tanks and even some cold tanks, etc. And so it's a capital investment, but it also does result in soft cost savings and more consistency per batch. In quicker turns as well. So if we're doing a triple or quadruple batch in one day, we can get tighter turns and nobody has to work 24/7. So we're definitely committed to that. We don't want to toil. This is not a 24/7 operation. I'm never going to say never ever again, because every time I've said we're never going to do that, we end up doing it. So I'm not going to say that anymore. I'm just going to say, it's our goal to basically be very cognizant of people's lives and people's families, and try to keep them in the chasm of the hours that they wish to work. We have some guys that do want to work late. Some young guys that want to clock out at 10 o'clock at night. And that's cool. And we have some guys that want to clock in at 5 a.m. And so that team works well together in that, and we can kind of get those brewing shifts set up to where it's not 24/7 by any means, but it's a good 16-hour day for sure. And that should allow us, again, with the efficiency improvements, we think we might be able to eke out a little over 10,000 barrels a year on our 15-barrel system. Additional tanks back in the back. We have more coming as well. We spun up the silos. Those are installed, but they're not operational just yet. I think we get our first grain order next week. That bulk pricing makes our cost to brew so much lower. So again, it's finding those manufacturing techniques and practices, sourcing your source parts or your source ingredients at a bigger discount, etc. Investing in your manufacturing systems, i.e. the brew house, to get better efficiency out of your staff, give them the tools that they need to get their job done. But I think we'll be able to eke out a little over 10,000 barrels a year in that regard, while maintaining the quality and consistency that we've built to date. I think we're going to be pretty happy just kind of hanging out there. We feel the world of beer is changing. I'm not going to say that there's going to be winners and losers. I don't know if the changes are going to be that severe, but it's a tighter market. It's a harder market. It's a market. We're absolutely blessed here in Colorado to have numerous wonderful breweries. We're friends with all of them. Yeah, there's Weldwerks in Colorado, but guess what? There's like 50 others easily that are top breweries, just killing their game. And so, yeah, come here. But you know what? If you're super into the beer scene, you're probably going to go to those other 50 places as well, and that's just 50. There's over 400 breweries in Colorado right now, and so kind of take your pick. And so, yeah, trying to strike that balance of we love risk. We like taking risks. We like growing. If we grow, then our employees grow, their pay grows, we can do more benefits for them. We don't want to be stagnant. So we're looking at how we can basically get into other markets in terms of distribution, different styles, maybe. So we're going to try to spin up our sour program again next year. And so, that'll be an additional play that we can start dinking around with and see if we can build a market around that beer. By and large, we're known for our IPA stouts and our kettle sours. So kind of trying to break out of those a little bit and to get into other areas, help us diversify a little bit. Just not grow too fast to the point that we're going to hang ourselves out to dry should a correction come. Also maintaining our foot on the pedal to not be stagnant. Try to thread that needle. Been a very interesting time right now because we're on the tail end of planning for what we're even going to do in 2019. There's a lot of things we know we're going to do, and there's a lot of strategy that's still on the board that we have yet to figure out if we're going to try to pull it off or not. But we just haven't had to really do that Yeah, to date, it's just been one foot in front of the other and just try to we're just out of beer, we're just out of beer, we're just out of beer. Now we're starting to hit a scale where we're still out of beer, but we have the ability to make some decisions ahead of time now. Instead of just reacting to the demand, we can plan for supply a little bit more than we have before. And so getting all the leaders in the company around a table and just saying, we have to look down the road a little bit more than we've had to date, and to crunch numbers. And how do we crunch numbers? A lot of these people are brewers or systems people, and these are all new worlds. We have a very young crew, so nobody's been in board meetings, going down that road of strategy planning for a huge corporation, and so trying to build those disciplines in and to guide people how we want to build those strategies and how we want to work together as a team to pull off those initiatives has been a process for this year, and we'll make some missteps in 2019, and some things won't be communicated well, and we won't execute a strategy particularly well, but we'll learn from it. And I really do feel 2020 we're gonna hit a really good groove in terms of that planning and foresight.
Do you think there are some hindsight is 2020 jokes in Weldwerks'
God.
future? You better be ready for those memes if you're not already.
Yeah, they happen pretty much right away. We do a pretty good job. I almost feel bad to a point, because I feel bad, but I'm also just, I'm just so thrilled that we have this kind of team. So we'll have one of these big events. We'll have the big anniversary. We'll have the big release, whatever. And just as soon as it's done, we're all chatting. We use Slack internally for communication, and just to make sure everybody stays in the loop. And we do a really good job of structuring and utilizing Slack for that purpose. But
is it like a chat app?
Yeah.
Chat program?
Yep. Okay. Yep. And you can do different teams and things like that. You can do direct messages. You can post attachments, all that sort of stuff. And so we use it very rigorously. But we'll finish one of these events, and in the damn thing, nobody's been able to breathe. And one of us, sometimes me, whoever, will just say, I felt like we could have done so much better here. What do you guys think? And it just starts chattering. We all just got done working 14, 15, 16-hour days. But we're all sitting there chatting at 1 o'clock in the morning, just yeah, shoot, yeah, I agree with that. Or no, man, I didn't see it that way. If you would have been over here, this is what it was instead. And so, but just the fact that we have those people that are just plugged in and just care enough about the company and the customer to, after a long day, just still have it in them to conversate about how we can even be better. So we do a good job of that. And it's a blessing and a curse, because it's hard to turn this thing off in my brain anyway.
And it sounds like for the rest of your staff, too.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you feel like this staff idea of who are we, what is our purpose here in the community, has helped fuel Weldwerks in your expansive growth, in addition to, obviously, your delicious, tasty beer?
Absolutely. I've always been a huge proponent of basically the phrase of it's not the beer, it's the people. And I don't say that willy-nilly to discount our beer or the awesome recipes behind it, or
no one's
awesome
down
brewing.
talking
Nah,
Weldwerks beer.
Obviously there's fanfare for that stokes that need for acceptance, and are we doing a good job there? We're definitely hearing that. So but we've always been dedicated to people and the culture, and it's been hard. It's hard to build a team. It's hard to build a culture from scratch. I spent 20 plus years in the world of IT, but it was heavily leveraged on the operational side for financial service companies. And so basically I would go into teams, and without regard of systems or technology, would identify the people and the processes and what they were trying to achieve, and figure out what the right way forward was. And in so many instances, that it wasn't the delivery of a system that was needed, it was retooling people or reinvesting in education for staff, or communication, just processes, procedures, documenting stuff, letting people know what the expectations were. And so that really opened my eyes into how difficult it was to really get people to work together well. But with all of that experience, I knew how to do it. And so we've been heavily invested in the hiring process. I go by gut with how I do it. One of my little special purposes in life is I have a great read on people. I can interview people and fairly quickly know if they're a good fit or not. And I've been very fortunate to be right very, very often with that. But how do I train that down as I've had to hand off that hiring to several other people? And how do I get those several other people to talk together to make sure that they're doing it in a consistent way, and they're hiring, just like you said, the people that are dedicated to the culture that we're trying to build in terms of that investment in the community and the consumer, and telling that Weldwerks story and that attention to detail on the beer, and being creative and being okay with failure, and all of those ethoses that make up Weldwerks. We tried several times to what are our 3 things? There's no way to get this bad boy down to 3 things in terms of company ethos. Yeah, right. So we've done a really good job in hiring. We've done a really good job in creating team structures, and which then communication structures follow those. And it's really hard. You have to constantly reinforce those structures, and it sounds very corporate. And honestly, it is very corporate. When it's starting out, it even makes communication harder because you have to go through this channel and this person to then get over to that person, that goes down to that person, and then you get your answer back the way it went through. So it's kind of like that chain telephone game that people play. Like by the end of it, is the message the same or whatever?
Never is.
Never is. Reinforcing that, what I always promise people was see the process through, and you'll actually see it's going to just flesh out, and it's just going to become normal. It's just going to become way more efficient. And it's like anything else. If you start it from scratch, it's going to be hard. You're not going to do it right. It's not going to work well. It's going to be a clusterfuck. But if you stick to it and you flesh out the process and you stick with it, it'll work itself out in a way that is palatable. And that's played out, and it just takes a lot of work to reinforce it. And I said earlier that we're kind of 2 different companies. We're actually 3 because we have a whole sales and distribution arm as well. That's a whole separate team of people that are out in the community delivering beer, selling beer, maintaining those relationships with restaurants, bars, and liquor stores, etc. And that's an absolutely huge play for us. We're 28 people. We're 3 different kind of core teams, and then we have all these leaders at the top, and then we have kind of middle leaders that help, drive all that cultural reinforcement that we're talking about. And it's just constant work to make sure that all keeps driving.
Because when your product leaves Weldwerks and goes into distribution, that customer service element is gone.
Yeah.
Now it is the product speaks for itself, and the cover of the book is the packaging. And,
right.
And how do we get people to either find Weldwerks beer out and about that they already know they love, or how do you convince people without a single word?
Exactly.
In the cooler, this is the one I'm going to grab tonight.
Yep, exactly right. And again, it's that dedication to that consumer. Our first consumer in that chain is the store itself, the bar itself, and making sure that we have a good relationship there to make sure that their ethos and the way that they operate is in line with us. And that can mean from just being good guys all the way to, and gals, all the way over to, are they mindful of their selection? Or are they just kind of shooting a shotgun into the woods and hoping they hit something? Yeah. And so we're very careful about the partners that we bring on, and they've been very patient with us, just like our employees in the beginning as well. Like, we had a lot of missteps, and we had some supply issues, and we totally rechanged packaging in the fall last year, October 2017. We completely revamped who we are and what we're doing. We were basically trying to stick to core styles, which is the Colorado market, and we were trying to stick to 12-ounce cans, which is the Colorado market. And it just was clashing with what we were doing here in the tap room, all of these innovative styles that were getting brewed every single week and everything else. We finally just gave up, and we just said to our partners, this has to match who we are in terms of what we put on your shelf. And here's what we're doing. I know you're not on board with this, but do you want to try it? And those things were 16-ounce cans, 16-ounce 4-packs. They were price points that were way above market average. These are labels that don't look alike. They're all one-offs. They're 100 new beers a year. There's no consistency there. It says Weldwerks on it. The Weldwerks is consistent, but nothing else here is consistent. And it's a different product every single week. And so we went into our Primo partners and just said, how do we...
Are you ready?
This is how we have to do it. Totally not what anybody else in Colorado is doing. So we couldn't do our rip-off and duplicate method that we like to do. We really had to kind of step into this on our own and just kind of face the pain with it. Can we come in? Can we educate your staff? Can we talk about what we're trying to do and why we're doing it and doing hand sales to consumers and things like that. And a few, I won't say all of them, were kind of negative on it, because a few were like, this could work out. Like, let's do it. But most were, this is not going to go well. Oh. This is not going to go well. Like, what if a customer comes back looking for the beer that they had last week, and we're just supposed to say you're never going to brew it again? It's like, yeah, that's what you got to say. And they're like, fine, okay, let's try it for 2 weeks and we'll just let you know. It wasn't a thing where we were going to revert back to the old way of doing things. It was this or bust. Yeah. And we were just going to have to figure out something else if it didn't work. We came back in a couple of weeks later, and they're just like, you know what, just whatever you're brewing, whatever you're canning, just send it to us.
Bring it in.
We're good. It's like, okay, good. It's the marketing that we're doing as a brewery is resonating with their consumers. Their posts on their Facebook of our cans is getting them traction in. And yeah, it's a different style every single week, but people are coming in for that limited stock of that one-off, and they're also then buying this, that, or the other beer, whiskey, wine as well. So it's been a draw for the stores, and it's so far it's been a win-win. They would all like more product, of course, but we can only do what we can, and but it seems to be working out for everybody involved so far. So.
And you touched on it. I can't believe we're an hour and we haven't touched on 100 new beers in 2018. Yeah. I think this is going to blow people's minds if they don't already know about it.
Yeah, yep. So now I'll touch on it real quick, and it's a simple story. Again, being a foodie, I hate going into the restaurant and it's the same damn menu that it's been for years.
Try something new.
I want something new. I want something that's seasonal. I want something that, based on what you're able to source, you're able to execute. I love restaurants that have just like 2 things on the menu. And it changes daily. Like, oh man, that is my cup of tea big time. We don't want to be a shop that just brews Juicy Bits and Medianoche. We want to play. We want to experiment. We want to have a lot of fun. And so trying to figure out what we were going to do for 2018, we just said, let's just try this. We needed to build our recipe base up a little bit more. We were hammering the brew house to get a little bit creative and experimental and just try some things, see what sticks. And so they took that initiative on. I think we did our 100th beer about a month ago. So we're actually already through it. Yep. So we'll end the year with probably about 125 new beers, which ask any brewery, it's not an easy feat by any means. And we've had some duds. There's no doubt. There's just going to be some things that don't resonate well. Everything's always sold out. Some things just take longer than others, but it's been fun, and it's been eye-opening for us to see what we can pull off and what we can execute and to build that up. But yeah, you're not going to see us pull off that strategy for 2019. We're done.
You're done with strapping yourself.
We're done with 100 new beers a year.
Yeah, a little too much fast pace.
It was hard. It really was hard, and with the brewhouse team maintained just a great attitude with it all, and they had a lot of fun with it too. But it is exhausting and difficult, and planning is very last minute, and it's just kind of fly by the seat of your pants. And not to say that we're sticking to core styles next year by any means, but instead of 125 new beers next year, you're probably only going to see maybe about 60-ish new beers next year.
More than once a week.
Yeah.
And it was genius what you all did with your line walking into Weldwerks, where you have the cards that you can fill out for your flights.
Correct.
The 5 options, and there's so many. And it's a good idea.
Absolutely right. We want to give people choices, and do people need 32 choices? I don't think they need 32 choices. That's quite a lot. We would love to always have somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 beers on tap at any one point, along with some let's get some nitro coffee flowing, let's get some kombucha going for people that have issues with gluten and whatnot, and again, just trying to give people a great experience, so be mindful of what they want.
Yeah. You mentioned 20 years in IT. can we discuss your road to Weldwerks?
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. So, doing the corporate gig for a lot of years, and it was very rewarding, and learned an absolute ton, and that absolutely played into what Weldwerks has become, to be able to use that insight and experience in what I gained. Probably 2013, my immediate neighbor invited me to his homebrew club, and I was like, dude, I don't know how to brew beer. I like beer, but I wasn't even that experimental with beer. But went to the homebrew club, and just a bunch of guys in a garage, and 3 or 4 of them would bring their systems out, their little homebrew systems, set them all up in the yard or the driveway, and they would all brew, and then we would all brew at the house we were at, Neil's house. We would mostly brew on his system, so my neighbor was like, no, come on out. You don't even know don't worry about not knowing how to brew. Neil will tell you what you need to do, and everybody gets to do a little bit of something, and it's just a lot of fun. But we're mostly just sitting around watching college sports and then drinking last month's brew. So, right. And doing a kind of a bottle share kind of a thing. It's like, oh, that sounds fun, meet new people and whatnot. And good crew of anywhere between 12, 13, 14 guys showing up at this monthly deal. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And Neil's just a really great guy, even though it was absolutely him running the helm of what we were brewing and everything like that. He just made you feel included. So it'd be like, go measure me out that and do this, and it was never kind of an order or anything like that. You just felt part of the process and a part of the thing, and just a good group of guys, good group of friends, and it was also very eye-opening to me in that Neil would be the one spending weeks planning for this brew. He's doing the detail work and the legwork on the recipe design, and he's the one ordering all the ingredients. So when we show up, everything's in a bin with scoopers like ready to go. This guy just put his heart and soul into brewing every single day. And as I got to know Neil more and more through these brew days, it's just like, dude, you are just a weirdo. Like, all you do is beer. It's all he read. It's all he did. It's all he dreamt. It's all he talked about. It was his world. And I myself, I don't like anything that much. I love doing just too many different things to ever be so just involved in one thing, and it's pretty apparent when somebody is like that. If the talent is there, if that's where their interest is to that degree, holy shit. So it's funny that you brought up Breaking Bad, because I've always said that Neil's my Walter White since before we even opened.
Hell yeah.
So it was actually part of our pitch, to open. We're trying to just start up with as little as we could and make it work and sell this thing to friends and family and whatnot. And Neil and I are majority owners together, equal partners, and we have full say on what happens. Brought in some friends and family so we could pull off that Cadillac brew house since day one, and bought that baby cash. But part of the sales pitch was like, I got Walter White. That's who I got to brew. And anybody that knew Breaking Bad was like, seriously? And I'm like,
and you're Jesse Pinkman.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
And you all definitely hit the crystal blue.
That's right.
You did.
Yep, we got the blue for sure. So, and that's funny because we're also very, very different individuals. We're definitely yin and yang, black and white, and but it works, and it's very hard, and we've had a lot of buddy breweries and just business partnerships in general. They're just very tough, especially in those early years. It's even tough now, honestly, as we've gotten bigger and there's more just, there's things going on and whatnot. And we really try to make a point to, first of all, we spread out the leadership team beyond just me and Neil. So it's a great team of 6 people, including the 2 of us, that make decisions on and everything day to day. And Neil and I do not have veto power over anything. So we are just simply just one of the leadership team members, and shit's a majority vote. So, but that's a good thing, because I think that gives us a little bit more of a worldly view than we would have otherwise. Keeps our egos out of it a little bit more than would have happened otherwise, but also softens the blow of working together day in and day out every single day, and the stress of that, and it's tough, and we've seen some partnerships falter, and there's been some even recently in the brewery industry that it's just like, damn, that's so sad that did not work out. Now that brewery's like, it's just going to be a different brewery now because that partnership broke up. And so I'm very, very thankful that we have a great foundation in that working partnership, and it's going to lead to much more success down the road. So it's been great.
Comes back to people.
Absolutely.
Exactly what you said. People over beer.
Yep.
And they're behind the product and the passion and what comes out.
Yep.
Do you know if any other breweries were started by this group of individuals? Home brewing and meeting in this place?
So Green Earth down the street is one of the guys from our brew club, but that's the only one actually. So Greeley's a little bit of a small community. We still only have, I think we have 6 breweries now with Green Earth's addition. It's still a burgeoning scene here. Just one, but they were all fun guys and they loved to brew. And shoot, back in the early days when it was just me, Neil, and Kristen, I would take Fridays off from my corporate job. I had a lot of vacation time, and we would brew on Fridays, and then I would work the tap room at night along with Kristen and Neil. Never a team of 2. It's just always one of us. So it was me or just Kristen or just Neil behind the bar. We were only open 4 days a week back then, so it was a little bit easier to swallow. And we opened later in the day. But those were long days, to brew beer and to do all that. But my point was this garage crew, they would be the ones that would come in and help us brew and would cycle kind of in and out. And they would help us staff the tap room and everything else. And so just we couldn't have done it without them. And thankfully enough, they've stuck with us to this point as well. We don't need them from a staffing standpoint anymore, thank God. But at the Invitational that we were talking about, that was our team leads for that Invitational Festival. So they all some of them had 25 people working for them, depending on which area of focus that they had. So it's just been fun to see that parlay into bigger and better things all around.
It's like the growing of the Rat Pack. It reminds me of thinking about people like Brad Pitt, Jennifer Lawrence. These people went to high school and they had friends before they were famous.
Yep.
And it reminds me of you all in this Brewers Club, and then now, I don't necessarily know if you consider yourself celebrities, but you're pretty big, influential individuals in the brewery community, and especially here in Greeley. And it's interesting to think about you all in this brewery club, in a garage, hanging out watching college sports, right? And not knowing one day we're going to run this Weldwerks empire.
Exactly right. It's a trip to think back on and to see this become something that nobody ever thought it would ever be something to this magnitude. And again, it's the team that did it. It's the team that we hired, and it's that investment in people that otherwise we probably just still would have been that small little brewery, brewing a couple different styles and 6 to 7 taps going, and come in and see us. Hope you do. And thankfully we were able to turn that on its head and really chart a new path that nobody from the get-go had any plans to do. So it's been cool. It's been a fun ride.
You all may have made mistakes, but you have been wildly successful. And I want to be cognizant of your time here. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
I hope people enjoy this episode, getting a behind-the-curtain sneak peek at Weldwerks. And if you have one parting thing to say for any listeners out there, whether they may have been to Weldwerks once, maybe they've been here hundreds of times like myself, maybe they haven't heard of Weldwerks just yet, what do you want to leave with people?
Really just to come out and experience. Come to Greeley. When you're here, spend some time out in the community. We have other great breweries here in town. The other one being Wiley Roots, just right down the street. They're doing a lot of great things. We have a great burgeoning downtown scene. Good restaurants popping up. Good bars, restaurants. We have a great pub down the street. Patrick's Irish Pub has one of the best tap lists in all of Colorado. Seriously, I'm not joking about that. And so just come for Weldwerks, but also come check out the scene. Get a different taste of what Greeley is. We get a lot of bad press out there, and I love changing people's mind when they come out and visit, and they're like, I did not know Greeley was this awesome. And it's like, just so give us a chance.
Same. Reality is more than you think.
Exactly right, baby.
And I did almost forget, but I want to commend you all that you have an entire tab on your website that shows people other neat things and places to go to in Greeley.
Right.
And I think that is very, very rare.
Yep.
And as a person in the community of Greeley who is sort of a self-labeled Greeley advocate, I want to thank you all for that. And I think that's super neat.
Rising tides, baby.
That's right. I have used that phrase more than once on the show, so I'm not going to repeat it because the listeners are thinking, oh my God, I was going to say it again. All right. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you so much.
As always, I want to shout out Russell Isaac Long for all the wonderful music used here at the More You Know Co. Are you looking for a little bit of bonus content in addition to the regular episodes on the show? Look for us out there on the interwebs, on Facebook and Instagram, all at the More You Know Co. Until next time, peace!